studio on Brunswick Street, and I'm joined by Mike Amos, who is at the beach in Panama City. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning. It's all beautiful down here, and I know the weather is always important, and we hear that there's going to be some rain coming here later on, but right now it's beautiful.
Yeah, another wave of bad weather coming in today. Gosh, we've had a lot of this in the last couple of weeks.
I don't know if I could stand having to pay for somebody to take a tree out of my yard anytime soon.
You had how many? You had 7 trees down?
Yeah, I had and the guy did a great job getting it out and working for me, and I sure got my money's worth as far as a great guy that takes down trees. There's not that many people out there that can do it, and I just happen to have one that did, and he was really good.
I was real impressed. I had to cut down some trees when I first moved back to Troy, and there's a guy that does it, that he works for the power full-time, 3 or 4 days a week, and then he has a tree cutting business on the side.
It could be Tony Peacock. Is that who it was?
I can't remember his name. Young guy, and he does a fantastic job. It's fascinating to watch him work. He has the bucket truck, and he moves himself around, and then how they cut down the big limbs, and then starting with the little limbs. It's real dangerous work, and but he was covered up with business. He said when he goes to one job, invariably 2 or 3 people come up to him and say, "Hey, will you come over to my house too?"
That's right.
So I bet you he can afford a beach house.
I tell you about that. You'll find that a pine tree is a lot easier to cut down than an oak tree. The oak trees is about like dealing with brick almost. They're so hard.
Yeah.
And so as long as it's pine trees, they move pretty quickly. But those, like you said, those oak trees, they got to have a bucket truck or something like that.
We cut down one tree that was half rotten in the front yard, and then we cut down some big limbs on the oak tree that were hanging over the roof of the house. And that was pretty good at preventive maintenance right there, because the odds are pretty good that one of those trees or big limbs might have fallen on my house with these last storms we had.
Somebody told me there were so many good Samaritans over there in Hillcrest that they didn't know who was being paid to do the work or who was doing it voluntarily. I saw my strength coach, Shaughnessy. He said he worked all day long the day after the storm.
I know it. There was a ton of people that came in. Our city council person, Stephanie Baker, was checking on everyone, bringing food and water and helpers to help people. I saw Chuck Ash and a group of people that they were working for some organization helping out people. Yeah. Chuck lives in my neighborhood too.
Yeah, and in fact, there were a lot of people helping each other, and that's a beautiful, beautiful place to live over there. And like right now today with the morning sun coming up, it's just a beautiful place. And
what sets it off is
a lot of things need to go out to a lot of volunteers that help.
Yeah, what sets Hillcrest off, it always reminds me of Old Cloverdale in Montgomery, or that area is all the old, mature trees. But, like these more storms we have, we're slowly losing some of those trees.
Yeah. And another thing that people need to realize, like with all the rain we've got, what it's done is softened the ground. And with the soft ground, sometimes heavy winds will knock them down,
Well, you saw it.
Hopefully not.
Several trees that were just simply uprooted, and you can see the roots.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see that tree on the old Troy University golf course up on the hill?
Oh, yeah. I saw that.
It had been uprooted. That was old.
You lived underneath those roots. It was huge.
Well, I'm going to do my quick math. That was old, hole number 2, 3, right there on where you teed off on the old number 4 on Trojan Oaks.
That's right. Coming up and around the hill.
That dogleg left where you...
People don't realize what a good golf course that was, especially after they renovated that golf course. And it was just 9 holes. But I've had a lot of college golfers to tell me that that's where they really developed their game on that old Troy golf course.
What was
the name of it? It was
Trojan Oaks.
Trojan Oaks.
And we do take it for granted, but it was a pretty course and well maintained. And I've talked to good golfers like Colin McCrary, and he said the same thing. They had a lot of tournaments there, and he said that the players always enjoyed playing it and complimented it. They said it was a really pretty challenging course, especially from the very back tees, which I never played.
And what they had was huge greens. They had real big greens. And, if you hit it close, sometimes you might be 50 feet away, maybe more than that.
I played a lot of golf at that golf course through the years.
Now, see, I can remember playing before then where you teed off up near the baseball field, the left field line at the baseball field where you teed off. You came down there in a par 4. Then there was a dogleg right where you could have either played it as a par 3 or a dogleg right par 3 or par 4. Most people played that as par 4, and the hole went almost down where the intersection of Charles Simpson High School is now, almost that deep.
Yep.
And then you came back up the hill for another par 4. You're looking for Costeed everywhere. Costeed was running with red shorts somewhere up in there.
He was.
And then on a par 5, I ought to be able to know by heart because I played it several times when I was a kid. This is the old course. And I had a little par 4 there. And then, let's see.
There's one hole that went back by WTBF because I remember when I was a little kid.
All right, I'll tell you which one that was. Then you came across on a par 4. You came across the road, the actual road. You came across it on a par, and that was a par 3. Across the road, and then you left there and you went down the hill with another par 3 down the hill. And then, like you said, you went over to the old WTBF radio station, and you came back across that gully there on a par 4. And then you went on up all the way up to the where the let's see, well, gosh, almost where Little Place Field is, in a long par 4. Right, that's where it ended.
I only played the old course one time. I was probably 8 or 9 years old. We lived in Opelika, but we visit our grandparents in Troy often. I just started playing golf, and my mom, who also played golf, took me to the old Troy course. It was a hot summer day, Mike. What I remember is we both almost passed away from heat exhaustion trying to walk those 9 holes. In fact, my mom got so hot that she had to go up into WTBF and beg them for a Coca-Cola and sit in the air conditioning for a little while.
That's right. And most of of course, on any day, they let you come in there and buy a Coca-Cola from them. And you see the late Jimmy Rowland and Jimmy Vance was one of the DJs back when I used to play golf out there. And, back when I was growing up, Rice, if you were a member of the country club, you were considered to be rich.
Well, that's most towns, yeah.
I wasn't a member of the country club after I got married.
You're right about that association, but it's not true. We were usually members of the country club, but we weren't rich. Dad got richer the older he got, but like when we lived in Opelika.
But most of my friends weren't members either. Maybe the Gam Greensboro was Kerry, but most of them were not members. None of them. Very few of my friends, other than maybe Buck Corley and growing up, played golf.
We lived in.
Buck would play with he would play with O'Neill with Warren Henchey and Dave O'Neill and that bunch. They were all pretty good golfers.
Yeah, there was nobody in Troy that played. When I was growing up, I moved to Troy in 7th grade. The only people my age that played golf were myself and Charles Bradshaw.
That's right.
And we would play out at Troy Country Club, but we were the only people out there. Now, it's funny how later a lot of people take up golf and become really good. Charles and I weren't even that good, but we played.
Yeah, that's right. Most anybody could have played on the golf team, couldn't they?
Oh, yeah.
There were some real good ones, especially Dave O'Neill and Warren Henchey. They were very good.
I remember one high school golf tournament match I had in high school. We didn't even have a team. It just Coach Jeffcoat said, anybody play golf? And about 5 people in the whole school said, raised their hands. And it was Barry Tucker, the quarterback of the football team. He played number 1. Believe it or not, I played number 2. I think Charles played. And we played with some really good golfers at a tournament at Trojan Oaks. You talk about a humbling experience.
Yeah,
happened to play by the
losing all those Anthony boys and all them,
playing by the rules of the game, and no mulligans, no improving your lie, putting out. I told everybody I shot in the mid-80s, but I bet I shot 102 on that day.
Well, and then of course, the knowing the right way to play golf too, certain things you had to do,
No mulligans. I wonder if there's ever been around my whole life where I actually played by the golf rules.
Yeah, I can see you in a high school golf match saying, look, I want to use my first mulligan.
Those guys I was playing with, there were 3 other guys, and they were all good, and they just basically ignored me after one hole. They could tell I was a duff. And I think we went and played the golf tournament right after we lifted weights for an hour, so your arms were all sore.
Oh yeah, and of course there were several good golfers that eventually came through Charles Henderson High School, and they went on and actually play college golf and so forth. So
well, it's funny. Troy is full of good golfers, but not many of them play as juniors. They're just good athletes, and I guess they're playing other sports, and they pick it up later in life.
Yeah, Steve Conley was a good junior golfer, and he came around. Bill Gibbs was another good junior golfer that later on played real good golf, and there was gosh.
Good morning.
Hi, morning.
Let me put y'all on. Y'all both there?
Yeah, Mike, are you in?
Yeah, you got me.
All right. I'm always happy when I do that. We're talking about childhood golf memories, Mike, and your daddy was mentioning the original Troy State golf course, which I only played one time. And then how actually pretty and probably underrated the Trojan Oaks golf course was, which they redid probably. What year would you say they did that, Mike? About the time Mike Griffin got there?
Let's see, it was after I went through, it was probably the 70s, probably around the 70s, somewhere in there, early 70s.
Yeah, I knew every piece of that golf course. I went into the woods pretty much at least once a week, finding golf balls out there. So I knew everywhere to go out there. That was kind of my playground when I was a little kid coming off Crow Hill.
Did you find more balls where people had sliced it or hooked it, or do you remember?
Tons of balls in those creeks near the junior high school. The water right there was a huge spot to find golf balls. And then, we actually jumped in the pond and probably pulled out about, me and about 4 or 5 other guys from the neighborhood probably pulled out about 1,000 balls one time.
Oh my God! What would y'all do with the balls? Sell them?
I'd probably just give them to Dad, or we didn't sell them. We just kept them, I guess.
He and I used to sit around on a Sunday afternoon with nothing to do, and we'd get a sock. He'd get a sock, and I'd get a sock, and we'd take off, and we would have a contest on who could get the most balls. we went down.
We basically get those coaches socks that came up to your knees.
Yeah,
that's what we use.
And we fill those both of them up every time we go down there. But it wasn't fair though, because he would go in the water and he'd just walk in the water and he'd feel a golf ball and reach down there and get it. And he did it with his feet. And he'd find 100 balls, and I might find 15.
Yes.
Well, I mean, it was like a glorified Easter egg hunt, though. I mean, that's back when you had the yellow balls and the orange balls. I mean, you had a little bit of everything out there to find. It was fun.
I never did tell him how many big old water moccasins I saw in that creek down there.
I bet.
Yeah, I didn't have any fear when I was a kid.
I'm gonna tell you.
I go out in the yard every day now and look around in the yard for snakes when my girls are out there now.
Mike, when I was about in 7th grade, we had a gully washer one day when I was playing with Charles Bradshaw on your street. And, I mean, it just poured, flash flood. And right when it was over, still going on, we walked down to that creek because we knew we could jump in. And it was like the Missouri River rapids. And we jumped in it and just let the current take us all the way down.
Yeah. And I tell you what, you wouldn't believe how many snakes were in that creek. I used to go down there. People don't understand. I'd be afraid of a rattlesnake. I've never seen a rattlesnake outside of captivity. Can you believe that?
No, how's that possible? Many times you've been in the woods cutting down trees.
I've seen hundreds of water moccasins, but very rarely have I heard a rattle. In fact, I can never remember hearing a rattlesnake rattle in the woods. Never have.
I've seen a big one right next to a trash can next to our next door neighbors when we lived in Fort Myers, Florida. My friend's house, and boy, he was big, and somebody from the city crew came and shot him. But that's the closest I've ever. That was in 1st grade. I've been to a rattlesnake.
Right. I've seen him in the woods many times on Florida. There's growing up.
Yeah.
Going over trails.
Yeah, going over trails.
Especially in the wintertime when they were moving real slow.
Yeah.
I've worried with this.
A lot of times we'd go back and ride over them on the four-wheeler.
I've worried with this corona with all the kids out of school that, and kids are going to run around and play in the yard and the woods. They'll get bored to death. Yeah. I said there's going to be more kids that are going to encounter snakes. And I actually read a story on AL.com about some 4-year-old boy in North Alabama that was bitten by a rattlesnake in his driveway.
Yeah, I know in Birmingham and Mountain they have a horrible problem with copperheads. A lot of copperheads bite, pets and cats. And I know my twin sister Camille's little dog Tilly got bit in the head by a copperhead. It can be really dangerous for pets and humans.
Yeah, there's a copperhead and then there's a copperhead moccasin. I would think the rattlesnake would come first, then the moccasin, then the copperheads, but the coral snakes, I've never seen a coral snake, which is supposed to be
I've never seen a coral snake either.
Yeah, let me tell you my snake story. When we were fishing at the pond in Union Springs, Collie Pond, that a lot of people in Troy know because they got places up there, go have friends that they fish up there. My dad and mom had a trailer there briefly when we lived in Opelika, and then my grandparents, KK and Hickey, had a trailer there. So when we didn't go on the boat, we'd walk down to the end and fish off a point, about 70 yards from the trailer. And we were down there, I was probably 7 or 8 years old, fishing, and the grass was real tall. It came up to about your knees. And with us was our little peekaboo dog, Muffin. The sweetest, most domestic dog, sissiest dog you've ever seen. But Muffin walked down there with us. We're fishing off the side of the pier like we always do, and all of a sudden we hear Muffin growling. And I've never even heard that dog growl before. We look down, and there is a water moccasin right between Muffin's teeth, and Muffin bites it in half. And I bet that water moccasin was 2 feet from us.
Muffin did?
Yes. I wonder, did Muffin save one of us?
Yeah, that's right. I've been to that time. Uncle Quentin and Aunt Emily used to have a place up there, and I saw a lot of water. See, so many trees that would be growing out almost into the water, and the moccasins would get up and climb up in those branches and just sun up there,
Yeah,
you can if you wanted to see one, all you had to do is just walk down that, like you said, that dam. You would see them.
Tons of turtles and water moccasins.
Yeah, that's enough said. But people need to realize this: that if you ever get bit by a water moccasin, just get to the hospital as soon as you can. No reason to do anything else, but get to the hospital as soon as you can. It would be one of the things I've always heard.
Yeah, well, they used to say you could tie a string above the bite and then suck out the venom, but now they don't say that. You're right.
No, you sure don't do that. That could hurt you more than help you. But every time I get around somebody that knows what they're talking about, they say, "Hey, if you want to apply pressure on it, you might want to do that. But if not, just get to the hospital as soon as you can."
So you're down at Panama City Beach this morning. How many people are flocking onto the beach? Is there a lot of people out there?
Well, yesterday afternoon there was a pretty good crowd of people just walking, looking at the sunset. Boy,
I mean the water looked gorgeous yesterday. Nobody was in the water.
It's a beautiful green. It really is. And right now I'm stepping out onto my porch here. And I'm looking as far as I can to the right. I see one person walking. And I look to my left, and I don't see anybody. So this morning, there's one lady that's walking on the beach, and I'm looking way down to the right. And then, of course, the red flag. It is rough water out there. And what is the actual time, Mike?
The times in Bay County are from 6 to 9, and then in the afternoon from 5 to 8. And then Walton County passed yesterday. Walton County will go back to just normal all-day beaches, any hour starting Friday morning. So it's going to be pretty crazy, and down here. No telling how many people will flock down here come Thursday night.
I hope so.
It's definitely gorgeous down here today, and of course it's quite a breeze. Like I said, I can see a long way. I see, people on down the further north I look, or east I look, and then I look down to the right, and I just see one person in the corner. He better be careful because it's real rough out there this morning. But it's beautiful, and now in the afternoon, Mike, it's 5 to 8. Is that right?
Yeah. It's supposed to rain starting around lunchtime today. It's supposed to rain all until the wee hours of the morning. So if you're going to go to the beach, you probably ought to go right now.
Yeah, exactly. And it's very important to find out when West Panama City Beach actually allows everybody to come going out the whole day. What do you think?
I think they're going to vote on it maybe tomorrow, so I guess you'll find out then.
Well, I think that the sunlight is good for people. It's a natural disinfecting of viruses. So if people just social distance and don't get up on top of people, I think it's great that people will be walking around and swimming and building sandcastles, et cetera, et cetera.
I'm interested to see how it's going to be on a small beach like Grayton. We're going to try to get out there real early with our girls, but it's a really small area for a lot of people to be together. So I don't know what it's going to be like. I'm sure the sheriff's department's going to have to try to control it a little bit, but they did tell us that we could drive our trucks on the beach. So that's really good for us as far as getting on and getting off.
Have you ever seen those pictures of like Coney Island Beach in New York, how packed people get right on?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Well, like Venice Beach and all that in California, I mean, that's where you really see it. It seems like more than anywhere. But it's like that at Rosemary Beach and Seaside as well. All the people, they're not allowing any vendors to put any chairs out or umbrellas out, and that's a really good thing, I think.
Well, we've got them ready to put out here where I am, but with the water right now, it's so rough that they're not going to allow anybody to go swimming.
Man, the water's rough. We saw the water yesterday, and it was calm as can be down here in Grayton.
Well, it's sure not calm today. It's a red flag all the way. And
I worry about those umbrellas and the spikes that they used to bury them in the sand. There have been 2 times in my life I've been at the beach where it got real breezy, and I've seen those umbrellas come up and just fly down the beach going 80 miles an hour, and they could impale someone.
Yeah, it could, no question about it. But these guys, they make a pretty good living with these umbrella stands, and I'm sure once all of the beaches open, the whole day, it'll get more and more involved.
Well, are they letting the swimming? I guess you can't get in the swimming pools though, because most of these resorts have swimming pools that look out over the.
Y'all, the swimming pool I saw the other day was open down there at your place.
Yeah, think about it too. We joke and laugh about there's no place to get a haircut. You're right. There's some people. Right? How long is your hair today? If you got
Well, I got my hat back on today, but it's as long as it's been since I was in 8th grade, 7th grade, and 6th grade, and wore it long.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's just so many people that their livelihood depends on being able to open their business, of course. So
Governor Kay approved that yesterday. You can have hair salons open and places like that.
She made an announcement, but hair salons were not reopened. They did reopen retail establishments as long as they're less than 50% occupancy. They are allowing elective procedures at hospitals, which is huge for hospitals because the revenue streams have been killed at hospitals, when they can't do mammograms or colonoscopies. And the dining halls in restaurants are still not opened up. So there's some things that have been opened and some that haven't.
Yeah. This Waffle House has opened up, and the guy that owns Waffle House, I forgot how many thousands of Waffle Houses that he has, but they've got it set up, the seating set up where people be, I think at least 6 feet apart, but they're back to normal pretty much, as far as state of Georgia goes. Now, in other states it might not be the case, but Waffle House is a pretty good place to go.
Why don't everybody take their kids to Georgia and go bowling this weekend? That'd be a lot of fun.
I'm going to go bowling and get a haircut. I wonder if you can watch a movie in Georgia. Probably can.
What would you do? Would you just go to
a good time doing things, playing games, building puzzles, picnicking. You know, we try to have some adventures where we take walks, but not in our neighborhood. Go somewhere else in town and check it out.
Well, you know, the government is trying to help folks that don't have, that go from week to week, with their salaries every week, and it's tougher on some people than it is on other people. But at the same time, the guy was telling me yesterday. He said, yes, I'm growing unemployment, and probably making more money growing unemployment than working.
I've heard that a lot, yeah.
Some people might not want to go back to work because they're making more money when they were drawing unemployment,
Yeah.
That's
I'll tell you what, I'm ready to invest in a mosquito company because I have been destroyed by mosquitoes the last month and a half down here. They've been awful.
Oh, no.
You're right. You're exactly right.
Mosquitoes are awful, and then we have something down here that a lot of people in Florida don't have because the state parks surrounded us with the woods, and we have a bunch of real beautiful live oak trees. We have these yellow flies, and they're one of the more painful bites you can ever experience, and they're going to be around starting about a week from now for a good month. You talking about getting eaten alive? Yellow flies are the worst bite I think I've ever had.
That's awful.
Well, now you can use sprays though to protect you, can't you?
Yeah, they sell all the stuff down here. We bought a lot of it. Cactus juice. Cactus juice is really good for mosquitoes and yellow flies. So we try to put that on.
You put it on your children.
Well, I'm really the one they like the most for some reason. I don't know if it's my blood type or my skin, but I get eaten alive.
I know it. Hey, that's a good question to ask those folks on TV. Why are the flies so bad on some people and not so bad on other people?
You know, that's true. I mean, your body chemistry is different. They usually don't bother me as much as they do my wife.
Yeah, if COVID-19 is carried through mosquitoes, I'm gonna definitely get it.
Well, you know, I've been reading.
Is it carried? It's not carried, is it?
I mean, I don't know.
If it's carried, yeah.
If it's carried, yeah. I mean, I'm sure somebody's looking into it.
I've told you, Mike, that I'm reading the book, The Great Influenza, on the 1918 flu, which was just awful, so much worse than COVID-19. Yeah. Most people don't realize that. But the first 80 pages of the book aren't really about the flu of 1918. It's about the history of medicine and the breakthroughs that people found about how germs and diseases are spread. And one point the author makes is that some people are affected differently. So two people could be affected, both get the coronavirus through the air. One of them will get really sick and one of them will be perfectly fine. So, I mean, how do you explain that? All right, Max is calling, so I might lose one of y'all. Okay, so let's see.
All right, well, Mike, let me go ahead and take you to begin with, and then I'll bring you back in.
Mike, you call back in about 15 minutes.
All right.
All right, hold on, Max. We'll get to you. Is this Max?
Yeah, that's me.
All right. All right, I think I got Max and Mike Amos. Max, you there?
I'm right here.
All right, well, Max Howell is calling in from Mississippi. Give us an update, Max.
Max, I was going to ask you a very, very important question. Why are mosquitoes worse on some people than they are on others? Does that mean they're sweeter than the other one, or what?
Probably so, Mike. That's usually the case. They go. You always know that sugar thing. They go. Flies and mosquitoes go swarm to that. Those sugar get to the bottle of vinegar.
Yeah. Max, tell us what's happening, man, and what's going to happen.
Well, we don't know what's going to happen. I know Ole Miss released late yesterday. They shoot for July 1st to start to bring their kids back to campus.
All right.
So, so I think if that is the case, and Keith Carter's the new athletic director there, and he's in touch. He played there. He's an All-American basketball player. He's had a good career. He's now the athletic director, and he's in touch, with the modern-day technology and staying in touch with all the folks around the country. And if he released that, I'm assuming that there are other people that's got that same date in mind.
I bet you're right. That's good news for those that hope that college football starts in September.
Right.
But they got to have the students on campus before you can have football.
Yes. Yeah. And that was kind of a surprise, I think, to me early. I would know by whatever the regular academic year started. I knew that would have to happen, but I thought maybe they could bring them into the summer without that, because they allow them between semesters and in the dead period. Basically, they allow them to be on campus, and that's when the 2-hour a day or 20-hour work week is not enforced as long as the kids are on campus. But no, you're right, Bill. They did release that early on, that the kids have to be on campus before they can legitimately say, "Hey, we're in football." And
so what we're going to have is a situation where some state governors open their states. Maybe most states will reopen, but some where it's been worse, or they're taking a more cautious approach, will not reopen. So you could have a situation where, say, California does not allow their students back by August, and so you can't have football. Southern Cal and UCLA cannot have football teams if their colleges haven't started back. Well, that's fine and good, but Alabama is scheduled to play USC in the first game of the year. So if USC students are not back, Alabama is not playing USC. So what do? They cancel that game, postpone it, reschedule, maybe play Troy, Mike. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the first thing you do is postpone and or try to reschedule. I think therein lies a scheduling situation, Bill, that the athletic directors are going to have to, that's going to be the challenge, because they're going to have a full calendar of ball games on campus and off campus to meet their budgetary needs, because that's what they budgeted around.
Right.
3 to 5 years in advance ago.
Well, one day in July, Max, will they start back practicing?
Well, the first thing, the headline said, sports team to reconvene July 1st. That's the proposal. Now, of course, that's got to pass the state board, it's got to pass the governor's office, and then it's got to pass the NCAA. So that's just the proposal.
That's just 2 months away. That's just 2 months away. That's not far.
Well, see, I don't think the team situation that is irrelevant. I'm telling you, I've been there for 30 years on the field. The problem is getting the fans back in the stands. That's where the dates got to come from. And they can make an adjustment, see, on the practice time and all that. That can happen overnight, just a stroke of the pen.
Yeah.
But it's a budgetary problem.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
A lot of colleges, including Troy, are already asking for people to go ahead and buy their tickets now.
Sure.
And and I'm sure most people are saying, "Well, gosh, here you want me to write a $3,000 or $4,000 check for tickets, and we don't know for sure if we've got it." I'm sure that's a little dilemma there with people wanting to wait to buy their tickets or go ahead now and buy their tickets.
Well, I know
the university would love for them to go ahead and buy it now.
Well, over here, what they've done, Mike, is they just put a guarantee on the receipt that if they don't play or if they have a modified schedule, you get a refund. They solved that problem the first day. I got many friends over here that's already bought tickets in Ole Miss and Mississippi State, and both sides have already sold those tickets in advance, particularly to the big alumni even those corporations that buy blocks as well. They just give them a guaranteed refund, if they don't play.
But see, I haven't seen that, anything like that from Troy. But I know a friend of mine wrote a check yesterday for $6,000, and I'm sure if they don't play, he wants his money back. I would think.
Well, yeah, I would have to think that all the universities have that clause. When they buy,
tickets. He buys 10 season tickets every
right
each year, and of course you don't find that many buying that many tickets at one time.
Well, bless his heart. I'm glad he's supporting the program.
No question.
Well, then the other part, like Max said, is what are they going to do with the fans? Are they going to let everybody in, or are they going to let half of them in and have social distancing? And I think that would be kind of hard to monitor. But like Max made the point, they got to play these games for budgetary revenue reasons. They want the ticket sales, but just as important, they want ESPN and CBS televising those games so they get that TV money too.
That's very true.
And of course, guys like us, there's nothing more that will make you happier with this day of time and considering the virus and all this we've gone through. But it would stimulate or enhance the lives of a lot of people out there if they knew for sure that there was going to be a college football.
I agree. That would uplift people and give them something to look forward to. It would help the local economies tremendously. There's a lot of benefits to it. And I would just say that the older people that are most accessible are people that have pre-existing conditions.
Yeah.
Surely they're smart enough not to, if they're worried about getting corona, not going to a football game, They can watch it on TV.
And I think the first game's supposed to be held in Miami, isn't it? Miami, Florida, I think, it's going to be the first Division I AA or Division I game, I think.
Well, Alabama and USC is the first weekend in September in Dallas. Even if they don't cancel that game, I bet Jerry World is going to be half full. People are worried about money. People aren't going to. Plus, Alabama fans have been out there several times anyway, so there's no novelty to it anymore. I wouldn't be surprised if they do play that game. They'd be in front of 40,000 fans.
Yeah, but down there, think about how bad that area has been hit by the virus, and gosh, that'd be scary. But hopefully by that time, which would be about 90 days away, or 100, maybe over 100 days away from kickoff. If they started practicing right now, if they did.
But I think we talked about this. Yeah, we talked about this before. I think the mental aspect of the crowds, of the people showing up, is where the concern is going to be for the athletic departments and all to see. The team getting ready to play, that's not going to be. But in Mississippi, and I don't know about Alabama, and I keep up with it, but there's a growing anticipation every day over here. More and more businesses are opening. The only things that are not open are, of course, the schools aren't right now. They've not set a date yet. Restaurants, even some restaurants here in the state, can open with a minimum crowd, 6 feet apart, mask and all that, can go in. But salons and massage parlors and getting your hair cut and all that stuff still haven't been able to open. Department stores are reopening now every day in this state. So I think we're gradually getting back into it in certain states. Now, Bill, as you said earlier, what about this where we were hardest hit in this country? South Carolina, Louisiana, California, New York. Those are the hard hit states. What do they do? If they hold their resurgence back into the economy, and if we don't have a crowd at that game, or they do have a cancellation or delay in trying to start.
I think you could have a situation where most schools, start back football on a semi-normal schedule, but some schools do not have teams this year. That has happened. You look at World War I and World War II. In 1943, just about everybody didn't have a football team, or a lot of schools. Some did. Some played all the way through World War II. Alabama and Auburn did not play in 1943. 1918, the year of the Great Influenza, which was also when World War I was going on, Alabama did not have a football team. But I've researched this. Most programs in the country did have football teams. And the reason I researched this, I've always been interested in Alabama's all-time wins. If you throw out all the losses that have been given by forfeits, Alabama is actually only behind the University of Michigan in most wins all time. But Michigan played football in 1918 and 1943, so they have kind of a 2 seasons extra that Alabama didn't get to get any wins.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, listen, we're going to go.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ben.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that the thing that is comparative today is what wasn't involved in those days to the degree of the budgetary items. Schools didn't have to have 18 sports to be qualified for Division I.
Yeah.
Some other sports didn't have to fund guys to carry the load for them.
Oh,
so
yeah,
that's where
no
the
question.
I think that's where the real questions are going to come in.
Oh, if there's no college football this year, it's going to be a massive hit for athletic departments.
It is.
$100 million is what I've read that Alabama athletic department would $100 million.
All right, that's true. How many teams are there in the SEC, Max? How many teams?
14.
How many teams? 14. Each one of those schools got $45 million from the SEC TV contract. Is that right?
That's right.
That's right. Plus,
$45 million apiece.
Plus, that same slice went to the SEC office. So there's 15. That guy was cut 15 ways.
And I'll tell you, I've looked at Alabama's budget. $17 million every year goes to servicing debt. That previous bond issues for capital expansions.
Stadium expansion.
Yeah. So they got to pay $17 million regardless. They're not going to let them not pay that debt. So you better have some revenue coming in. And then they haven't canceled the salaries of Nick Saban and all the staff, have they?
Yeah.
Well,
have you seen, though, where some of those guys are going to have their salary docked?
Well, Boise State did that with their whole athletic department. They just put them on relief or furlough. They're taking no paychecks for 60 days or 90 days. I don't know what it was. But that's the only one I've read about. I'm sure that probably some of the smaller schools.
It's coming,
Go through that.
Yeah. Think of the smaller Division II schools and Division I schools that don't make a lot of money. They're in even worse shape, yeah.
All right. Y'all, listen, this is Mike speaking, Big Mike. I'm going to be cutting off and bringing in Little Mike from Great Beach in just a few moments. So, Bryce, let's just take a short break.
Okay.
We'll bring in Mike to go in there with you.
Well, call him and tell him to call back in.
That's what I'll do.
All righty. We'll see you. We're going to take a commercial break, and we'll be back in 2 minutes.
Trojan Auto Parts of Troy, home of Napa Know-How. Stop by and see owners Mike and Melissa Kilcrease and their Napa Know-How team with over 100 years of combined experience. We're the only locally owned parts store in Pike County, and we're fully stocked and ready to serve you. We pride ourselves on being your go-to parts store, not only for the simple items, but we specialize in those hard-to-find items as well. Trojan Auto Parts, the right part at the right price at the right time. Napa, a name you've trusted here in Troy since 1945.
Have you seen an increase in your insurance premiums or significant change in your insurance coverage? Let Sandbeck Insurance offer you a better plan to suit your business or personal needs. Sandbeck Insurance offers many lines of insurance, whether it's home, farm, or auto insurance, work comp, business, or health and life policies. Sandbeck is here for you. Call or visit our Troy, Enterprise, or Andalusia office today. Sandbeck Insurance, where we take pride in taking care of your insurance needs.
A personal touch. A high level of trust. Whether it's checking and savings accounts, personal or business loans, or our local friendly service. That's what Troy Bank and Trust customers expect. But now we offer more. Free identity theft protection for our new and existing customers, protecting your family's time, money, and good name from identity theft. Because protecting your identity is now a big part of our identity.
At the Piggly Wiggly, we proudly support our local farmers and bring you the best they have to offer, all at cost plus 10%. When you shop local, you reinvest in your community. Remember, buy local, shop local. Piggly Wiggly, local since forever.
Trojan Auto Parts of Troy, home of Napa Know-How. Stop by and see owners Mike and Melissa Kilcrease and their Napa Know-How team with over 100 years of combined experience. We're the only locally owned parts store in Pike County, and we're fully stocked and ready to serve you. We pride ourselves on being your go-to parts store, not only for the simple items, but we specialize in those hard-to-find items as well. Trojan Auto Parts, the right part at the right price at the right time. Napa, a name you've trusted here in Troy since 1945.
The same way, but it's not. It's all. I've just gotten so political now.
We're now back on Today in L.A., and I am joined by Max Howell, and Michael Amos will be calling back from Grayton Beach in a second. And Max and I, off air, we're talking the pros and cons of reopening. There's arguments both ways. There's concerns over a second wave coming, which often happens with these viruses. And other people maintain that, that you're, by hurting the economy and hurting people's livelihoods, you're going to create more hardship and bad economic and health effects long term than by letting people, the people that are healthy go back to work. So.
Yeah, I think, and I try to read most everything that's coming out right now, which is, as you know, Bill, is constantly on every news outlet in the country. But it appears that of the majority, and I'm going to say the majority of the deaths from this have been with people with pre-existing conditions. I know we had 4 in our county last weekend, but you know what? The youngest one was 80. The oldest one was 99.
You had 4. Y'all had 4 deaths in your county last week.
Yeah. See, so I'm just saying that is not. It's tragic for the family. Don't get me wrong. I've got empathy and sympathy for that. But the fact is that those statistics usually aren't released on where. And there are ways to keep those people out of the public eye. Most of them in assisted living facilities already.
Yeah.
So but we get in the media screwed the numbers. It's become so political. It's hard to know what to believe.
I agree. And a lot of the deaths are in nursing homes. I read somewhere in Europe, I think maybe Italy, the median age of a person who had died from corona was 80.
That's probably right. I do not disagree with that.
So
that's just based on what I've read. That's certainly, but I will tell you, and I have to make reference locally here. We probably had 15 or 20 in the surrounding counties with Tupelo and Northeast Mississippi. But I will say to you, those under 60 that have passed away all had major medical problems.
Diabetes
they were
usually.
Diabetic, they were obese, they had heart problems.
Mm-hmm.
They were already sick, before they contracted the virus.
I've always maintained that if you are under 60 and you're healthy, this is really nothing to worry about, or the chance that you will die from it is about the same as the regular flu.
Right, I agree. I absolutely agree.
Now, if you're older than 60 or you've got diabetes or heart conditions, take all appropriate precautions.
Yes.
And then the New York City situation is probably an anomaly for a variety of reasons, but do the New York City lockdown in Kansas or Oklahoma or Alabama, which really hadn't been hit that hard, is there one response that needs to be followed throughout the country when the actual incidences are so different in different parts of the country?
Yeah, I think all those are the questions that still, the uncertainty because of those questions has probably got some, a large part of our society up in arms about, okay, do I go, do I not go? I do think that, I think the mask situation, I think that, staying the 6 feet apart, I think that, staying at home if you think you're sick, I think all those have been good and healthy.
Right.
But I can't see us dragging this thing out for another 90 days.
I'm worried about a real Great Depression. And, people hear the term Great Depression. What people don't remember is that the Great Depression lasted 15 years.
Exactly right.
And we both know, the distribution of all this money they just turned. All right, hold on.
All right. This is I'm calling in from West Panama City Beach.
All right, Amos is back with us, and go ahead, Max. I had to interrupt your point while Mike called in.
No, I was just saying that there's still so much uncertainty about it. It's become so political. I've got to the point where it's hard for me to even trust the national media anymore. And I try to cross-reference all the stories that come out. And some of them are, pretty you can trace them, but there's some that can't. They're opinionated. And all of us have those. So I'm in favor of easing back into the economy, and the rate that you come back into it, where you open up different businesses, has to be determined at the local level, depending on how much sickness you had. As we said before two southern states has been hit the hardest. I think those have to go a little slower than others. But the people that have passed away, that age level, as I told you before, in our county we had 4 this weekend. The youngest one was 80, the oldest was 99. They all 4 were in nursing homes. And I'm thinking if you have pre-existing conditions, you need to take that into in your consideration about what you do and where you go.
That's right.
That's a big difference between this and the great influence of 1918, which is commonly referred to as the Spanish flu, although it actually started in America. That flu killed people across all ages and demographics equally. It started in the military barracks, and it was just devastating, young men. They were 18, 19, 20 years old training to go to World War I. And with Corona, it's largely confined to the older population and those who were already sick. So that's an important difference.
All right, well, let me just say this, and I've said it before, Max. I still think they ought to wait till maybe even as far as January to start college football back. It'll give the economy a chance to get back under its feet. It'll give this terrible virus a chance to go away. And then you'd still have, you would have January, February, and March. Then you could start basketball at the end of March, and start baseball at the same time. Have baseball and basketball sort of go at the same time, and let it go on into the summer. I've said that. Sure, I'm not that's just my opinion, but I think the longer they wait, the better it will be for football. I think. What do you think, man?
Mike, the budget's restraints will not allow that. I can tell you that right now.
You don't think so?
I worked in the business when I did it. I was Ole Miss. I was assistant athlete.
Oh yeah, I understand.
And that was my, that was one of my things was budgetary. We were planning out with none of this was going on. We still had to plan out, sport by sport for 2 and 3 and 4 years ahead. And that's why, and the numbers now I've been off the field 20 years. And the numbers now are 5 times bigger than they were then.
Oh yeah, no question about it. Now, another thing too, again though, when you think, way in the pro, we can start on September 1st though, do you think? What do you think?
See, that's why I was really kind of taken back by Keith Carter's release yesterday that Ole Miss, and he was speaking just for the University in Mississippi, is that their goal is to start trying to bring them back July 1st. And I think that's a goal. I'm not saying they're going to do that, but they think strong enough. They released it in a press release yesterday. So, I think maybe there's going to be some schools out there that will try that. And if it doesn't work, if they end up with people getting sick, I think they can shut it down and reverse it back. But I think they're obligated, Mike. The obligations they have to other sports other than just football, because the money has to be made if they're going to have sports, for the other. And that's,
I'll make this point that it's going to be inevitable. There's going to be new cases, whether they happen in September or December. There's going to be new cases and there's going to be new deaths. Now, the question is, when you get those, do you suddenly say, all right, everybody back home, we're going to wash, rinse, repeat, do it all over again? Or do you just say, all right, no, just send those people away from the team, and let's continue on just like we do when players get the regular flu?
They're coming up with a deal now on how to take a look at who's going into the stadium. It's just like an airport. They got a deal now where you walk through it and it checks you out just like an airport, and you walk on into the stadium like that.
That's another.
Like I say, I think it's all going to be different, guys, from what we've seen before. And none of us really know how that's going to be. But this thing is going to cause some societal changes in the way we operate and our choices, and then it's going to end up being some economic changes on top of that.
If I was a good player, and you said you're going to start the football season in January, it would probably be the middle of January, and go through March or April, That's right. At the NFL draft, would you risk a playing and getting hurt right before the NFL draft if you're
Bring Mike in, Ryan. Bring Mike in over me.
Oh, well, he hadn't called back in.
I thought I heard it, but go ahead.
That's going to determine. That's going to be determined by what the NFL's going to play, guys. I'm almost sure of that. They're going to play if they play in front of the stadium. Those numbers are that. Remember, that is a big time business. And I hate to say this, but the health of the players and others is not the most important thing to them. And that's a fact. But the deal is, back to what you talked about earlier, Mike. If they wait till January, February, March, and what about the NFL draft? What about the upcoming seniors or juniors that were going to come out that have had a great career? Do they decide to sit out? So what happens to them?
Yeah, that's right. It would have a lot to do with it.
So the quality of the teams won't probably be the same. When you look at Najee Harris for Alabama, is he going to come back and play? Is Devontae Smith, the receiver, going to come back and play when they know they're going to be first or second round draft picks and risk that?
See, I think all those questions, guys. I mean, we can speculate on it all we need to, want to, but we're not going to know yet. And I think that's why we all read and try to keep up with other, where the interest lies with all of us that have to report on sports. But the fact is those folks that make a living out of that, I mean, the people that are employed by the universities, those are major decisions going to have to be made.
I'll tell you something else, Max, is that it's big for who is the cash cow in college sports. It's ESPN, which is owned by Disney, so it's really the Disney company. If they have no college football until January, ESPN can't sell any commercials like they used to all these football games, and there's going to be a lot of people. There's going to be a lot of people that are cutting their ESPN cable and satellite, which ESPN makes a killing on. So it's going to put the Disney company, which already has to close its theme parks and can't sell any tickets to movies, they're going to start getting in rough financial shape, and that's going to affect colleges on down the line.
Yeah. How about your marching bands?
Right.
400 apiece. I would think they would just sit in the stands and play, wouldn't you think?
I hope so.
See, we don't know yet. And are they going to put 300 in there? Like that. I think all that. But I had lunch yesterday with a guy that's the leading sales guy for the local TV, there's four TV stations here in Tupelo. This guy's a leading salesperson in the community, in the metropolitan area. And he said they're already getting budgetary cuts for people that had contracts just on regular television. Because, even though people are staying at home, they can't go anywhere to shop.
That's right.
This thing is far-reaching, guys. We like to concentrate on the sports side because that's what we do. But the fact is, if you keep up with it, and, you talk about a while ago about the Great Depression lasting 15 years, we're not going to come out of this thing in 6 months.
Yeah, there's this perception that you can just kind of hit a reset button and everything goes back to the way it was 3 months ago. I don't know if that's going to be the case.
How about these small budget schools, Max? Is it worth their while to try to start football back?
See, I see. Nobody knows, Mike. They'll let the major universities kind of set the stage for them. But a lot of those small schools like that, they don't have 2,500 people, 4,000 people show up for a ball game.
Yeah, they lose money anyway.
So that's not that important to them. It's some of the NAIA schools like up, on the East Coast, the small, the Harvard.
Well, what about the Mississippi junior colleges that so many colleges get players from?
Would they just start club ball? Would it best be no scholarship club ball?
It might very well be. It might very well be. Because, see, I think then you have a scheduling problem because in a league that's got, let's say, 10 small schools, let's say 5 of them can't play. They can't fill enough kids, or they don't have a budget to put them on the field. And so now do each team play each other twice?
want something
They
to
do,
get out of
and
play.
I will tell you, the majority of those players that are playing at that level, that is the only way they got there. They had some athletic ability and some academic ability, and they were given a scholarship to go to college. And,
that's right.
And I think about these girls, cross-country athletes or tennis players or, gymnasts. All those athletes, whether it's politically correct or not, they all depend on that revenue from the football program.
Exactly.
They do. I mean, let's take it down and not travel. Let's just take those sports in the spring. Let's go to Texas A&M. Are they going to fly those teams to Georgia to play tennis or golf?
Yeah.
What about the military? Just think about that. What about the swim team? Let's take the swim team in Kentucky. Are they going to Miami?
Yeah.
Or are they going to to New Orleans, to Tulane, or wherever they may be going? Those things have to be taken into consideration.
The hotel rooms, you got to put up these teams in hotels. You got to feed them. You got to fly them or pay the gas on the bus. You're right.
Yeah. Just think of Division 1A college football, the revenue nationwide that brings in to so many different elements of our society. I mean, millions and millions and millions of dollars, trillions of dollars.
Well, it is, Mike. Even in Troy benefits every time they have a home game, particularly
huge.
State. Look at all the tax revenue that's generated from eating out and from hotels. And just think you're there where Troy think what Alabama does, or
the number of and even the surrounding places like Ozark and Greenville, all the hotel rooms and restaurants that Troy brings to their tax revenue.
I think when Alabama plays, it fills up a lot of the hotels in Birmingham too.
But just the way, you're right. Just the way you wouldn't even know what to do with yourself, Max. Somebody told me you filed for
disability.
Income tax disability because you couldn't dog.
Okay, hold on. Here, Michael Jr. is trying to call in. Hello, who's speaking?
This is Michael.
All right, let's see. Let me get Max back on. All right, I got Max and Mike Jr. Are y'all impressed by the way I'm manning this phone system?
Yeah, a lot better than Big Mike.
Well, we are talking, Michael Jr., about, although you're not Junior, we're talking about the all the scenarios that could affect college football and then how important college football is to the revenue of the entire athletic department. And we've started even talking about the smaller programs that have no real revenue anyway. Is the North Alabama going to pay to send its basketball team to a basketball game in Ohio if they don't have any money coming in?
Yeah, we read yesterday that Kansas athletic department's already doing pay cuts for their coaches. Bill Self took a 10% pay cut. Les Miles, 10%. Jeff Long, the AD, took a 10% pay cut. So we're going to start seeing that more and more, I would think. It's going to be interesting to see if that would ever happen in the SEC. I wouldn't think so, but the Big 12 is a pretty big conference, so I guess you don't know.
Well, I think the individual schools have to, look at what their financial situations happen to be, and we go from there. But I think it's, you remember in the smaller schools. Here's something else too, guys. Those programs are funded by student fees. So if the tuition goes up,
right,
is that due to the number of students that they've already shown for incoming fall this year? Ole Miss, Mississippi State student enrollment's already down 13%.
That's a great point. The student enrollment is going to be down at every college in America because just not as many people are going to go to college, especially international students. And a lot of programs are subsidized by these fees. You're right.
Yeah, I mean, if I had the ability to sit out a year, this would be the year to do it. If you couldn't go to any sporting events on campus and couldn't pledge a fraternity, couldn't pledge a sorority. I mean, I could understand. College is something you can do. whenever. I mean, I might just stay at home and tell my parents I want to wait a year. So.
Yeah. Well, we're in a college town here, and some people are saying that college as we know it is not going to be the same in the future. So that'll be something to watch as well. International students might disappear. Online teaching, if it's cheaper and people are already struggling to make the tuition payments, or they don't want to take on these big debts, do you even go to the campus with the bricks and mortars, or do you take college from your house in your basement? Remains to be seen, I guess.
Hey, Max, I was watching the NFL draft, and I was shocked the number of Mississippi State guys that got drafted. I mean, they really had a lot of talent on that team, but I was even more shocked in the 7th round, because I watched this guy play several times, and he definitely didn't look like he was an NFL prospect. Tommy Stevens got drafted in the 7th round, and I was shocked by that.
So good. Yeah, obviously, Mike, in all fairness, he based, because of that, he wasn't very well talented. And the reason he ended up in Mississippi State was because of Joe Moynihan. Joe recruited him out of high school, and he played quarterback. That's what Joe coached at Penn State when he transferred. So that was just kind of a, and then Mississippi State was kind of in a, they were in turmoil. They signed a Schrader kid who was a freshman out of North Carolina, and he ended up getting most of the starts this past year. But don't look for him. At best, Tommy Stevens will be on the developmental squad. He won't make a roster, I don't believe. And, he may stay a year.
I was surprised with that, but Mississippi State had a lot of guys get drafted.
Yeah, well, when you get that far down, a lot of that is, I'm going to tell you, guys, a lot of that is favors to, back to that university to keep the flow going when they have a good player come through. It's just like recruiting. Sometimes those last 2 or 3 you sign, you may make them knowing they aren't going to make a contribution, but you need to keep that in with that school that produces a lot of players for you.
Nobody knew how loaded LSU was last year. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. And LSU, according to Michael, had 14 players drafted, which was almost a record in 7 rounds.
It is a record. It broke Alabama's record. So
they were just full of great talent this year. Makes you wonder, those same players were there the year before. Why weren't they as good the year before? But
well, you got to know Joe Brady added something to that now, once we started the skill position. But my good friend Pete Jenkins, who was coach at Troy about the time I was leaving, came in, and he's been 45 years. He still runs a scouting program and does a lot of things for colleges. He told me all along that he said 2/3 of the defense will be drafted at some point in time. He knew the talent level was there. They just hadn't, they hadn't grown to that point. And they had some injuries along the way, but when things started to fall in place, they did. And I'm already seeing what the starting tackle at Harvard is already transferred to LSU for next year.
Well, the only 2 teams that really challenged them, LSU, I guess Texas stayed in the game in the first game for most of the game. But Alabama came back and was in the game, except for some fluke plays, might have won the game. And then Auburn hung with them in Baton Rouge. Their defense did better than against. So, Alabama and Auburn were playing much better LSU teams than we realized that LSU team was. All right. But we've been talking about college football, how it will be affected by the coronavirus. Are we going to start in September, or are we going to start in January? Mike Amos seems to think that we should start it in January. Max seems to think that for revenue reasons, they've got to, if they can, go ahead and start it in September. I think go ahead and start it in September. I also think if somebody gets the coronavirus, some player on the 85 scholarship team, that's not the end of the world. The player is going to be fine. If you're 20 years old and you get this virus, you recover, and you might not even have symptoms. But what will probably happen when somebody gets the virus is everybody will panic, and it'll be like the NBA got one player that had it, and they immediately canceled the season. Nobody looks at the fact that a week later that player is out there fine and dandy.
I mean, you're looking at the numbers. I was looking at the coronavirus numbers yesterday, and they're starting to come down. I think yesterday it was like 22,000 cases, still like 1,800 deaths. But, if we're like late May and you start looking at Italy and Spain's numbers where they're like 3,000 cases a day, I mean, surely that's going to, put some people at ease a little bit to make them realize this is going to go away.
Well,
I feel like with the states reopening, I tell you what needs to happen more than anything is some of these, pro sports need to start back. Baseball really needs to start back right now.
That would help.
As soon as stuff starts starting back, I know golf's going to start back in June, but that's what needs to happen for college football to start in September.
I agree. That's a
well,
good
they
point.
announced yesterday NASCAR is going to run their races, the cup races and everything else. The guy from North Carolina said, "Hey, open them up and let's run them," and they are. And I think that's a step. That's a positive step.
Well,
I mean, you're gonna see. Hopefully, I mean, I would love for them to still finish the NBA season. I would hope, but I guess we'll find out that probably the next few weeks as well. I have no problem with all these sports playing at the same time.
I'm not worried about the health of these kids. Like even if they get the virus, they're going to be fine. I think 3 or 4 NBA players got it. I think 2 NFL players out of 1,600 have got it. They're both fine. One coach had it. The coach of the Saints, he's now fine. So my whole point is, even if somebody on your team gets the virus, send them away, shelter in place, quarantine that player, test all your other players, and carry on. I don't know why you can't, just because one person gets the virus, why you got to shut everything down.
Statistics show right now, we talked about that earlier, Michael wasn't with us then, but statistics show us that the majority of the cases across the country are either been people that were infirmed or had already had some underlying health problems, or they were, 60, 70, 80 years old in nursing facilities. So I think we have to take that into consideration. And I agree. I don't think it's ever been about the players themselves. The coaches will get those kids ready to play, and I don't think it's the crowd that either will or will not show up. Is where those choices. But those are individual choices.
Those are that's their individual choice. They own their own body, and they have freedom.
Even if they didn't allow fans, I mean, you could just pan to the marching band. If they still allowed marching bands and cheerleaders, I mean, I just want it on television. I mean, if we can't go to the games, as long as it's on television, at least that's something to watch. And you could have 10 people over to your house, and you got a 70-inch big screen TV, and grill out and cook out and still have a great time. I mean, that's what I want some kind of football. I mean, that's what
I say at least let the students in. I mean, these are the same crazy students that went to spring break. They all got chastised for going to spring break, but I haven't heard of any of them that died or no.
Like Walton County beaches right now, we have 35 cases in Walton County. And they're about to open the beaches back up Friday. I don't know if Max heard that earlier, but so you'll probably have 100,000 people coming down here in the next week or so to be able to go on the beach all day because they're going to be open all day. And if our cases go from 35 to about 500 in a couple of weeks, then I might freak out about it a little bit more. But I just don't think that's the case.
Well, even if you got the cases, how many of those people will really get very sick?
I think the degree of infirmity is still questionable.
Well, 60%. I have read that 60% of the people that get it are asymptomatic. They have no symptoms. They're perfectly fine. 60%, right. And then the cases are going to keep going up because they are testing so many more people, or so many more people are getting tests.
Sure.
So of course the positives are going to come back a lot higher because you're testing more people. And now more and more people are saying that this thing is so much more widespread than anybody knew, that maybe 25, 30, 35% of the people might already have had it. I think I might have had it back in early January.
Yeah, China, I mean, basically they told everybody that, it was like 2 weeks before they gave anybody notice, but I'm hearing now like maybe 5 or 6 weeks before they gave anybody notice. So this was definitely around in January, I think.
I've heard too many people say that, they had these weird cough, fever symptoms, and they tested negative for regular flu. I'm one of them. I just think there's a strong chance that this was going around all over America in January, which means that the denominator in the mortality figures is much, much, much bigger. So you get a number of people that died, say in Alabama, 220 people, and then you're testing that against 5,000 that allegedly have the virus. Well, probably 400,000 probably really have the virus if you actually knew how many people had contracted it. Then you do the math, then your death rate is very, very close to the regular flu, which kills 40 to 80,000 people every year on its own, which never gets mentioned. So, I just think.
Could you imagine being at Clemson right now and being Trevor Lawrence? I mean, everybody said this guy was going to be the first pick of the draft for probably the last 2 years. So this guy, you tell us now that we're going to play an 8-game schedule, and a guy that's going to make $40 million, I think is what Burrow made, or $38 million, to be the number one pick. I mean, you think that guy's going to come out and play 8 games? I wouldn't.
I wouldn't either.
Well, and of course, I think they've already shut down all their summer camps. They released that yesterday. Dabo's not having anybody on campus. Of course, that affects recruiting, future and recruiting down the road. Those are the things that I think have to be addressed, almost daily, by particularly the top Power 5 schools in the country that's going to hopefully play for some kind of championship.
Let me ask you something, Max. You coached and were in administration. I guarantee you a lot of these big old heavy linemen that have been home for 50 days, they have been like me. They've been eating nonstop out of boredom. So when they do report back in July or whenever they let them back, they are going to be terribly out of shape.
Well, most of these schools, Bill, they're monitored. The coaches are monitoring those guys every day.
But how do you make somebody go run for 2 hours or watch what they eat?
Let me tell you, every one of you know this in Alabama. Every one of them left out with an Apple Watch, and they monitored. If they sit on their tail, the coaches and Saban's holding them, the coach is responsible. I talk to those guys all the time. Those guys at that level, the Alabama, the Clemsons, the Ohio States, those teams, that's just to name the ones off the top. They all monitor those kids every day. It's not going to be a physical challenge for them. It will be a team challenge for timing and all, but it won't be a physical conditioning challenge. Those guys will be ready when they come back. And certainly there'll be some that are already at 320, probably go to 340. They'll have to run them and sweat them down. You'll get that 20 pounds off.
Okay.
But, that won't be a determining factor about the condition of those kids.
Well, that puts me at ease. I hope so. It takes discipline, but once upon a time, didn't all the players would go home for the summer, and they were in charge of getting in shape on their own, weren't they?
That's true. Absolutely. And of course, now they all stay in summer school, see? So, that's another plus for the evolution of the sport. The university saw that. Of course, they want to, then you got schools like Alabama that wants to go play a Southern Cal or a Texas or, another major power in the country to start their season. And, there's a lot of internal workings on this thing that still hadn't been addressed yet, and, at least publicly. I'm sure they're talking about it, but they've not put that word out on how they're going to face these challenges.
Well,
I wonder if college football ever, take an NFL mentality and let the kids scrimmage against other schools, like certain schools scrimmage against each other before the season. You hear about that in basketball? Dad talks about before Troy started their basketball season, Coach Cross, I guess, got in touch with Bruce Pearl, and they had a scrimmage against Auburn.
Yeah, you can do that now once or twice, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if you'll ever see that in college athletics.
We did that in the 60s. We took a team down to Pensacola and played against Roger Staubach in the bunches at the Pensacola Naval Base. We took them over to Georgia and scrimmaged them against junior colleges.
Yeah.
We were doing that 50 years ago.
I have heard that people propose play a game a real game for the spring game. Two colleges play each other, and the reason
like a jamboree.
A jamboree, a spring. That's what they call it in high school, a spring jamboree. And why they would want to do that is to get another source of revenue, which I bet they are going to do that because they need that revenue.
Yeah, and they could modify it. Have no kick-off punt returns. They could cut the risk. Cut the plays out, the risk plays. Start from the 40 or whatever. They all kind of rule allocation. I think the fans would pour in to see that.
I do too, Mac. I'd love to see
I was in the sporting goods business for a couple of years, and people don't realize a lot of these schools can't pay for their uniforms and helmets and all their athletic supplies without the gates. They're counting on the gates for these home games to be able to pay for all their athletic budgets, especially in football. So that's going to be a huge factor if nobody's able to go to the game, as far as even paying for their supplies and athletic materials.
How would it affect recruiting to have no senior season in high school football?
It's not affecting Tennessee. Have you seen what Tennessee's done in the state of Alabama?
Yeah, I saw they got
5 of the top players in the state, 2021.
Oh, Coach Pruitt's taking a page out of Coach Saban's book, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got Derek Ansley, the All-American player at Troy, that is his defense coordinator. I mean, they're going in the state of Alabama and getting some of the top guys. They just got the top guy in the state.
I know it. That's happened often. Clemson came in and got the top players in the state for a while. Georgia has gotten several. Kirby Smart. Saban and Malzahn, they need to seal up the borders of Alabama and don't let these people come in and poach our players.
Well, it's one of those things where, Pruitt's got the relationships, and Ansley, too, all these high school coaches.
Right.
I'm proud of old Ansley. He was one of my favorite players when he played at Troy. And I was worried for a while there last year the way Tennessee started the season, but they finished really strong. And so I would say that Ansley one day, Mike, will be a head coach at a Division I program, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, of course we want Coach Lindsey to be, super successful and go the Neil Brown route to a bigger school. But, that name is something you got to think about at Troy one day, I would think.
Yeah, good point, Michael. Hey, I've been told that we are out of time, and then Mike, Amos hung up to let Max and Michael come on. So, Mike,
yeah,
we will.
Big Mike's in the Gulf of Mexico right now. I hope he's swimming well.
Well, I'm glad that y'all can now put your toes in the sand and in the water. I hope I've done okay filling in for the great Mike Amos. I did the very best I could. And
you did a good job. We'll talk to y'all later.
All right, Max, call back on Wednesday. Hope you stay safe, and we always appreciate hearing your comments.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate that. I'll see y'all next week.
All right. See everybody again tomorrow on Today in LA. And thanks, Troy Cable, and thank you for all our great sponsors. Goodbye.